So, welcome back to Sound Bites, the show about good people doing good things in the food and drink industry. And we're going to talk a little bit today about food banks. And never has the idea of charity and giving back been more important than it is now. With inflation, the housing crisis, more and more families are in need. And today I'm speaking with Erin Filey-Wronecki, Chief Development and Partnerships Officer from Food Banks of Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about what she does and the collaboration they have with Skip the Dishes. So, welcome, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's maybe just start about we know the economic crisis is going on right now, the challenge in Canada. Maybe can you quantify in any way how many people actually now do rely on food banks in Canada?
Yeah, so we are now seeing about 2 million visits a month to food banks across the country. And for context, that's a 32% increase from last year and a 78.5%, so almost 80% more visits are made to food banks than prior to the pandemic, so in 2019. We are seeing food banks are seeing new faces all the time. They are seeing seniors, they are seeing students, they are seeing more people who are fully employed. So a statistic that may shock somebody, but we've seen an increase from 12% of visits made by people that are fully employed up to 17% of visits are made by people that are working every day and just cannot, you know, make ends meet at the end of the month.
Yeah, do you think that we're still have a stigma, or are we losing the stigma? I mean, you're talking about, I mean, it's economic reality. I mean, people have full time jobs. I think we can't afford our groceries anymore. So,
Yeah.
have we what talk about the stigma of food banks? Have we lost that a bit, or?
I hope so. I hope we're losing it. I don't know that it's gone away, but I think that there should be no shame in needing help. And I think, if anybody does need help, I think that they shouldn't let that get in the way of going and seeing and getting the services of their local food bank. When they walk into a food bank, they're going to be met with some of the most amazing people on the planet. These are people who every day get up and serve their communities. Some of them are volunteers. They're not paid, and all they want to do is make sure that families in their community have food on their table. So, if there is stigma, I hope I feel like it's being reduced, but I really don't want there to be anybody that doesn't go to a food bank because they're worried about what people might think of them.
Amazing. So I got this email coming across my desk yesterday, and then I rushed to say, "How do I interview you?" I have a big wine event, a couple thousand person wine event here in Halifax coming up in about 10 days, and our charity partner is Fee Nova Scotia. So
Oh,
I'm happy that I'm hopefully contributing thousands of dollars
amazing.
to it. Let's talk a little bit about the partnership between yourselves and Skip the Dishes. How did that come to be?
So Skip the Dishes has been a partner for Thanks Canada now. This is the fourth consecutive sort of winter charity event that they're doing. We started working together. I guess it was during the pandemic, and they're amazing to work with because they come up with really creative ways in which to sort of help everyone be able to give back at the time of year. So there's two ways. One is through their Skip Express Lane stores, which I think don't really they don't really exist in Atlantic Canada. And the other way is really you get to stretch your dollar, and we're all trying to stretch our dollars. So if you make a donation to Food Banks Canada on Giving Tuesday, Skip the Dishes is going to match it up to $100,000. So it's a really great way for those of us that are in a privileged enough position to make that choice on Giving Tuesday to give a little extra.
Amazing. And you kind of mentioned about the holidays and coming into the holidays and the need, but when I've talked with Fee Nova Scotia, it's not just the holidays, right?
Not
Maybe
at all.
how can we support? How can people support all year round? Because it's obviously we think of it a lot more at Christmas time, but really it's a 12-month a year problem issue.
It really is a 12-month a year problem, and it's lovely at this time of year because people do want to give back, and so obviously organizations like Food Banks Canada and Feed Nova Scotia rely on the generous spirit of the holidays. But every day across this country, people are turning to food banks, and so you know there's different ways. So obviously there's cash. Cash can be king if you have the capacity to make a financial contribution to an organization like Food Banks Canada or Feed Nova Scotia or a local food bank in your community. You can always come to the Food Banks Canada website and find a food bank there. And then, you can call your local food bank and find out what they need. If you have the capacity to make a donation of product, that's great. Or if you have some time and you want to go in and help the food bank run. I mean, these food banks are powered by volunteers, and every day thousands of volunteers across the country keep food banks running. And so, if you've got some time and want to help out, give your local food bank a call as well.
I love that. I mean, I love that suggestion because I think being inside Nova Scotia, it really is a good idea to call and say, "What do you need?" So, I mean, cash always helps, I'm sure, but as you
Cash
say,
always helps.
labor is important too, and time, and that's always critical. So, what else is coming down the? Let's if we go towards next year, we're gonna all now skip the dishes and put a little money in the bank for you. But how do we? What do you have any activities planned for after the holidays?
So, I mean, we're obviously always fundraising. There, we have needs all year round, as you mentioned. But what Food Banks Canada does, and I think it's really important to kind of put that out there, is we support food banks across the country, from coast to coast to coast. And so our role really is to make sure that the food bank network can be stable and be there for communities. So communities big and small all have different challenges. And so, we ensure that there are financial capacity, that there's food on the shelves, that they have access to grants and programs that help keep their systems running so that these organizations that I said at the top are
Mm,
powered by volunteers are really able to continue to make sure that no one in their community goes without.
Amazing. So, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, for all the good work you're doing with Food Banks Canada. I think reading your bio, you've been in the not for profit basically your whole career. It seemed to be
I
yes.
have, and I've been in not for profit my whole career. I've been with Food Banks Canada actually for 10 years. So I've seen us go through. I mean, for some context, I've seen this is the worst I've ever seen it. And so, any opportunity that folks have out in the world to give back, we have some tired food bankers, we have some stretched food banks right now. So, if you have the capacity to make that contribution to Food Banks Canada or to your local food bank, it's really appreciated and needed, especially at this time of year when everybody's working so hard to make sure that families have food on the table this holiday season.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and everybody donate this holiday season.
Absolutely, thank you.